Hello everybody, Wannabe Reviewer here, and welcome back to the Wannabe Podcast, episode 43. Before we get this week's podcast, I just wanted to give a quick shout out, aka shouty, trademarked by Cadaver Club. I wanted to give a quick shouty to Al from over at SuperGhidorah. Basically, I've talked about SuperGhidorah on my channel before, but for anyone who doesn't know, SuperGhidorah is this awesome channel that he reviews, he unboxes, he shows off all sorts of kaiju and monster figures, and he also makes his own figure model kits and stuff, and he shows them off. And he has an awesome channel, really fun content. I totally think you guys should check him out. But what I want to get at is that he had this contest, I want to say it was about a month ago, where in order to celebrate that he hit 300 subscribers, he basically put forward this contest where, if you guys haven't seen it over on my channel, my entry is on my channel, he basically asked, about your favorite, movie creatures, about your favorite soup, that sort of thing. It's trust me, it was actually a really fun contest to answer questions for. And basically whoever got first, second, and third, they were gonna get some custom figures that he made. Basically it's these little spider-legged creatures that he made that are homages to some movie slasher villains. So there was one that had the little hockey mask, reminiscent of Jason. There was one that was had the color scheme and the little hat of Freddy, from Nightmare on Elm Street. And finally, there was one that the face, it looks like it's stitched up. And it has, it's wielding this little chainsaw looking thing. And that's supposed to be, Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And sure enough, I placed third and I got the little Leatherface figure. And I got it about 2 days ago in the mail. And so I just want to say that SuperGhidorah, thank you for the figure. I think it is awesome. I think it looks really cool, really well made. And yeah, I just want to say that I love it, For anyone who's interested in what it looks like, maybe in the future, I'll try to maybe have a video where I show off more of my merch, that sort of thing. But in the meantime, if you want to know what it looks like, I actually have a picture of the little Leatherface, little spider figure thing. I have it over on my Instagram. So if you want to check out what it looks like, head over there so you can get a glimpse of it. But yeah, I just want to say that in the meantime, SuperGhidorah, thank you so much. I love it. I think it looks awesome. It is super well made. And yeah, for anyone who is listening to this, I would say check out SuperGhidorah. He's a really nice guy, has really awesome content. He's super creative and stuff. And even though he's, currently growing, he has over 300 subscribers, easily at this point. I think he deserves many more. So, if you guys can go check him out, I suggest it. I think he definitely deserves, more attention and stuff. So yeah. With that being said, with that out of the way, I did have a week, but most of the stuff that I did, it's not really stuff worth talking about. Mostly it was, watch anime, played some video games that I've talked about already, that sort of thing. However, I did have two things that I did want to talk about because I think they're worth mentioning, in a way. So the first thing that I want to talk about that I did, funny enough, they both have to do with Kickstarters, which wasn't even planned at all. But the first thing that I want to talk about that I thought was, noteworthy is that about a year ago, I helped kickstart a game called Thief's Roulette. And Thief's Roulette is this really interesting concept where, even right here in the Kickstarter description page, it says that it's inspired by Danganronpa and the Zero Escape game series. So if you've never played those games, they're kind of visual novel-ish, anime-influenced games where it's about, talking to people and kind of figuring out puzzles, that sort of thing. And sure enough, Thief's Roulette, it says that it takes a heavy influence from it. And yeah, I'll just read the story really quickly so you guys kind of get an idea of it. So it says, you awake in a strange place surrounded by unfamiliar faces. You have all been kidnapped and forced to compete for your lives in a series of challenges hosted by a mysterious woman calling herself Lady Luck. She claims that you have all been taken to her casino. When the group is split into 3 teams, you learn the horrible truth of this game. To win means to sentence your opponents to death. And so, it keeps going. It kind of describes, a little bit more of the game, the gameplay, that sort of thing. But basically, the premise of the game, as, kind of what I read, it seems like it's this crazy competition sort of thing where there's 3 teams. You have to solve these crazy challenges / puzzles. Seriously, if you've ever gone to an escape room, there are like these events where you walk into a place and it's set up in a way where you have to solve like puzzles to like proceed through rooms and stuff. It's kind of like that, or you're just like in the strange facility and you have to solve all sorts of like challenges and puzzles, that sort of thing. As I said, though, it has a kind of like that anime visual novel influence, though, where you also like interact with the other characters and stuff. And I don't know if that sounds interesting to you guys, but I think it's a really interesting concept. I think that, it's something that's not too common, even though there are some games with that sort of gameplay like Danganronpa and like the Zero Escape series. I still think that it is still kind of niche, But I played the demo, wasn't able to play all of it, in all honesty, because I am using my laptop that's a little like, lower tier in terms of like graphics and processing power and stuff. But from what I played, I thought it was enjoyable. I thought it seemed interesting. And if, like I said, you're free to check out the Kickstarter. Like if you literally just Google, Thieves Roulette Kickstarter, the page will come up. So yeah, I guess that's all I really have to say. If you're interested in those series, maybe, keep an eye out for this for when it actually comes out. And if you don't really know if you'd be interested in it, then yeah, check out the Kickstarter article, read through it. I don't know if you can try out the demo if you didn't back the game. Like, I don't know how like readily available the demo is, but if they let you try out the demo for free somehow, then yeah, why not try it out? Maybe you'll like it. So there you go. Moving on, this next one, I think unfortunately by the time I put this podcast up, maybe not. Maybe the Kickstarter will already be over, or maybe there'll be like a few hours left. I'm actually not too sure because as I'm recording this, it says it has 16 hours to go. But long story short, point is, there's this other Kickstarter that's currently ongoing as I'm recording this, and it's called Fluffland. And Fluffland, once again, it's a game that I thought looked really interesting. I thought the premise of it is something kind of, I would say it's kind of niche. I thought it sounded kind of unique, Basically, the way the game is described, it's a fantasy life simulation / visual novel hybrid. So let me try to read like the story and stuff so you guys kind of get an idea of it. It says, all of a sudden, you find yourself in a soft, fluffy world filled with beings called fluffs. Without a way to go home in your current situation, you will have to start a new life in this fantastical land, Fluffland. Interact with the fluffs and follow their lives. Would you like to find a way to go back home? Or will you like to live in the Fluffland permanently? Either way, you can explore the magical world, unlock new features, and find out the secrets behind this fluffy world, Fluffland, and its inhabitants. So, I don't know. I guess that doesn't really tell as much as I thought it would. But yeah, basic premise is, I tried out the demo, like I said. You wake up, you're in a strange world. You look all around you, and everything looks like really fluffy. It looks very like magical, very like fairy tale-ish. And, within like a minute or two, you meet this little like fluffy looking rabbit creature. And it says that it's a fluff, that's like the inhabitants of this world. And basically, like, you don't really have any memories of how you got there. You don't know how to get home, that sort of thing. So right away, the little bunny thing, it talks to this girl called Surya. I think that's how you say her name. And she's like the manager of like this district. They provide you with like food and shelter, all that sort of stuff. And I guess as you play, it's part visual novel in the sense that you talk to people and you make choices, you interact with them, that sort of thing. But at the same time, it's very interesting because it is like a life simulator where you can choose like what you want to do each day, and you have to like manage your time and like resources. So for instance, like the part I played, basically I arrived in Fluffland. They hooked me up with like I said, food, shelter, all that good stuff. And then it was up to me what I was going to do. And so I could either go and buy stuff, I could go and interact with people, I could go and do jobs to earn money, I could go to like, I think it was literally just called school, where you go and you like learn skills, which helps you with like other jobs. And from what I played, I thought the visuals were really nice. They're really cute. I thought the music was fine. From what I played, the music was fine. The characters look interesting. Character designs are really cute. Like I said, they have like a fairy tale aesthetic. I thought that the time management and all that stuff, it definitely has options for what you can do. I thought being able to decide what you'll do with your day, I thought that part was really cool. And yeah, I mean, if you love visual novels, and I know that I have a listener, Candy Fruit, I know she like always plays a bunch of visual novels. I mean, maybe you'll like this. Maybe it's worth checking out. But yeah, I do recognize that it's a very niche title. I don't think it'll be for everybody. But I don't know, if anything that I described sounds interesting to you, I would say check it out. Like I said, hopefully the Kickstarter is still up. And if it's not, then I mean, you can just hopefully wait till the game comes out. It's scheduled to come out March 2020. So, hopefully it hits that mark and you can play it then. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was like interesting from what I had seen so far. I thought that mix of visual novel and life simulation, I thought that was really cool. I thought it was really interesting how everything seems very like cutesy and carefree. But I don't know. I mean, I kind of saw hints like there might be more to it underneath the surface. So like that was really cool. So like I said, if that sounds interesting to you, I would say check it out. All you have to do is like either go to Kickstarter or just Google Fluffland Kickstarter, and you should be able to find it so you can read it for yourself and check it out. So there you go. Alrighty, folks, and that is it for my week. I don't know what happened I know what happened. What happened was I've been working on a lot of videos on the side. For anyone who follows my channel, you might have noticed that I put up like 3 videos this week. I put one video review for each season of Attack on Titan. So that's where some of my week went. I'm also been working on stuff like, in the background, behind the scenes. I've been working on some content that I want to put up. So, I mean, I guess that's where a lot of my week went. That, plus, as I said, I just watched a lot of anime and like played a lot of stuff that isn't really noteworthy. I've already talked about it before. So, yeah, week was short, but, hopefully you guys check out those Kickstarters. Hopefully one or the other interests you. And with that being said, though, I think we should transfer over to the news. So, let's dive in, So our first news story, basically it's a roundup of Gamescom 2019. Now, I'll admit that I am not very familiar with Gamescom. I follow E3 every year because I think announcements are really interesting. Likewise, every year I try to follow the Game Awards show because I think it's awesome, looking at the new trailers and reveals, that sort of thing. But Gamescom, I don't know if this is new or if it's been going on for a while. Like I said, I'm not very familiar with it. But all the same, Gamescom was basically this conference that just happened over in Germany, I want to say. And, during Gamescom, similar to E3 or something like that, they announced a lot of different games. And they had different reveals and trailers and video game news, that sort of thing. And so I'm not going to talk about everything that got announced. But I guess some of the biggest takeaways, during Gamescom, there was the Nintendo Gamescom Indies Showcase that happened on August 19th. I think the biggest news was that Hotline Miami is now out on the Nintendo Switch as of August 19th. The day they announced it, it was out. I thought that was really cool. Something else that stood out to me is that Ori and the Blind Forest, which I believe was an Xbox One exclusive. Yeah, it says right here, it was made by Microsoft Studios. It's making its way to the Switch. So I think that's pretty cool, I think that continued relationship between Microsoft and Nintendo and how they're, sharing games and stuff, I think that's really cool. So, if you've ever wanted to play Ori and the Blind Forest, but you don't own an Xbox or you're not much of a PC gamer, that's coming to Switch. So I think that's really cool. So yeah, I would say that's basically the biggest stories for the Nintendo Indies Showcase. That's not to say there wasn't other little games that looked fun and stuff, but those are the ones that stood out to me the most. Other big news stories from the Gamescom. Stadia had a Connect presentation. Basically, they showed some trailers. They talked about some exclusives, that sort of thing. It was fine, I guess. I still don't really know what to think of Stadia. I still think it's kind of silly, but I guess we'll see how that goes. Let's see, what else did they show? Death Stranding was a big one. They showed gameplay, and they revealed that Geoff Keighley, which is the guy who runs the Game Awards show and who was hosting Gamescom. Apparently he's in Death Stranding, his likeness is in the game, so I thought that was kind of cool. Good for him. I thought that was really funny. Death Stranding continues to look really interesting. They showed some crazy stuff, go check that out. And honestly, yeah, besides that, I didn't think there was that many big news stories. It was games we mostly know about. Cyberpunk 2077, Mortal Kombat 11. They showed more of like the characters coming out. They talked about Gears 5. They talked about PUBG, that sort of thing. I guess the only other really big news story, and I missed it. I didn't even like see it during Gamescom. I actually found out about it later through a channel called Ox Shocks, which I've covered him. He's an awesome guy. Apparently they announced Little Nightmares 2. So I thought that was like a big news story that I actually don't know how I missed it, but I thought that was really cool. You know, I think Little Nightmares was an awesome game, super atmospheric. I thought the gameplay was really fun. So seeing that there's a second game coming out, I think that's really cool. But yeah, besides that, you know, like I said, I didn't think there was anything like too impressive. I just thought it was like a nice update on like different games and stuff, but I don't know. You're free to check out the link in the description below. Maybe, you know, as you're reading through it, maybe there's a game that'll catch your attention. So, you know, there you go. Moving on, this next announcement, I thought it was pretty cool because I am, you know, I would say like a moderate fan of the series. So, as the title of the article states, Yakuza 3 for PS4 now available in the West. Yakuza 4 and 5 to follow in October and February. Now, I don't remember too much if I've talked about Yakuza on the podcast. Basically, for anyone who doesn't know, it's this Sega series where, I don't know, it's weird. Half the time, it's like this serious crime drama where you're playing as different characters who are interacting with like the Yakuza and like the crime underbelly of like a certain block in Japan, you know? And so like half the time, it's really serious. It's a crime drama. The other half of the time, it's like this super goofy game where you're running around in like this sandbox area. You know, it's like basically like it's a recreation of, like I said, like a certain block in Tokyo or whatever. And you're doing all sorts of little side quests and mini games and stuff that are like super ridiculous. And I love the game. I haven't played all the games, but I've played, you know, like Part 0, I've played the remake of Part 1, that sort of thing, and I have watched Let's Plays of like 4 and 5, but basically, it's an awesome series. I think it's like really well done. I think it's a fun game, and I guess what the article is trying to say is that if you're a fan of the series, and if you've enjoyed having, you know, Part 0, the remake of Part 1, the remake of Part 2, and Part 6, if you've enjoyed having those on the PS4, pretty soon you're going to have the whole collection of games. Because 3, 4, and 5, they've gotten a remastered edition, and 3 is out now on PS4, and 4 and 5 are coming soon. So pretty soon, if you want to play everything, you know, in like with the best graphics, all on one console, then, you know, the games are releasing. So I thought that was really fun. I don't know how many of you are Yakuza fans, but I think this is really exciting. I would definitely love to own all of the games on PS4 at some point. And yeah, I think if you haven't checked out the series, I think it's really worth checking out, because I think it is a really fun, like really, I don't know, you get really into it, you know, it's like a really cool series. So I recommend it. I say check it out. And yeah, I mean, like I said, if you haven't checked it out before, I know that my friend Zubaticus over on his YouTube channel, he had a review. I don't remember exactly which game it was. I want to say it was 0. He had like a really cool review of it. I would say go check out his channel and go check out that review if you want to get like more of an idea of what the game is, you know? So go check that out. Finally, my last video game news story, it's an interesting one, because while this story itself is very straightforward, it ties into something else, so you'll see what I mean. As the title of the article states, Sony buys Spider-Man developer Insomniac Games. Now, I don't know how many of you played the PS4 Marvel's Spider-Man game, but that game, I think it was really good. I thought that it had like really fun gameplay. I thought the story was really good. I thought the way that it paid homage like to the character was awesome, you know, with all like the little Easter eggs and references, all the nods to like stuff from his past, that sort of thing. So the Spider-Man game on PS4, it's probably one of my favorites, you know, on the system. I think that game is great. And yeah, it was made by a little studio called Insomniac Games, which in the past, they've made stuff like Ratchet and Clank, they made the game Sunset Overdrive, they've made some VR games, that sort of thing. And basically, as the title of the article states, even though they've been working really closely with PS4 and, Sony for like a while now, they were like an independent company. That was until Sony just bought them. So they now belong to Sony, they're like a Sony developer. So on the one hand, it kind of sucks when a company gets bought out because, they do lose a little bit of control, that sort of thing. So on the one hand, it does kind of suck that they got bought out, But on the other hand, at the same time, it is nice because, then they have funding from a big studio, big company, whatever. And it's not like it was a terrible purchase because, they were always working so closely with Sony anyway that honestly, like, if you look at the comments in the article, like, a lot of people were saying, like, oh, I forgot that they didn't already belong to Sony, So, interesting news. Like I said, it's pretty cool, good for them. The reason that this becomes kind of tricky, though, and this kind of ties into my next news story, which is a movie news story, it's because Sony took back the rights for Spider-Man from Marvel and Disney. I'll get into the movie side of that in a moment, but I guess where people are kind of confused, and I haven't really seen any like confirmation of what this means for the video games, the PS4 game was called Marvel's Spider-Man. And I think like it was very heavily, like I think Marvel and Disney were very involved in the game. And so what really sucks is that if Sony bought back the rights to Spider-Man, I don't know if they can make a sequel to Marvel's Spider-Man, the game. And that really sucks because, like I said, the game was awesome. Like, it had awesome gameplay, awesome story. Like, honestly, like, I'm telling you, I think the story for this video game, I think it's one of the best Spider-Man stories ever, all right? Like, it easily outweighs many of the movies. And so, yeah, seeing that this world might not, we might not see more of it, like, that really sucks. And so, I don't know. I've been looking around. I haven't seen any confirmation of it. But I really hope that Sony, I don't know, by buying Spider-Man back, I really hope it didn't screw over the video game, because honestly, between like the video game and like the MCU series and all that, I'm more worried about the video game. So like that really sucks, So I don't know. Hopefully, I'm gonna keep an eye out for it. Hopefully I see some sort of confirmation one way or the other. But in the meantime, Sony bought Insomniac. I guess Spider-Man aside, they're also famous for like Ratchet and Clank. They made Sunset Overdrive. From what I heard, I think they own Sunset Overdrive, not Microsoft. So who knows? Maybe we'll see another Sunset Overdrive that's exclusive to Sony. We'll have to see what happens, I guess, but I don't know. It's an interesting story. You're free to read it for yourself and, dive into all of that, but let's move on. Alrighty, so jumping over to the movie side of what I was just discussing. Yeah, as the title of the article states, Marvel Studios no longer involved in Spider-Man movies. So basically, earlier this week, I guess Marvel and Sony, they were having some sort of like, I guess you can say like, they were trying to strike up a new deal of how they would split like the revenue and all that good stuff, involving Spider-Man. And I guess, I'm not going to dive too far into it, but basically, I guess Disney wanted to cut it 50-50 so that they would get, like half the money, Sony would get half the money. And on top of that, I think Disney, / Marvel, I think they have a deal where they get all of the merchandising money too. And, at this point, Sony, realizing that they're kind of getting screwed because, they're like not getting almost anything out of the character that they own. I guess they didn't agree to like the terms or whatever. And so they kind of took Spider-Man back. And so for the MCU, that seems to mean that, yeah, Tom Holland and Spider-Man, all the characters and stuff, I guess they're out of the MCU. That does suck, not gonna lie, because the way the last Spider-Man movie ended, there was like this big cliffhanger, and it would have been really interesting to see what they do with that character. And if he is out of the MCU, like that does kind of suck, But, I don't know. I'm not gonna get too far into it, because like I said, I know people are really mad right now, and they're trying to blame Sony, they're trying to blame Disney, they're trying to, I don't know, protect one or the other, this sort of thing. At the end of the day, you know, I'm not going to go too far into it because they're both big corporations. Neither of them is my friend. And so it doesn't matter. I mean, at the end of the day, these are just movies. Even if I enjoy them, I don't think it's worth, you know, getting worried about. It's whatever. But yeah, you know, the other thing that's noteworthy, I guess, is that even though it seems like Tom Holland and Spider-Man are out of the MCU, apparently he is signed on for 2 more like solo movies or whatever. So that is what makes it weird because like I guess we might technically see like a Sony Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. I'm not really sure how that'll work, if it's like a totally different story or whatever. So, I mean, I guess that'll be interesting to see what they do. But I don't know. I mean, does it suck at the end of the day? Yeah, because I enjoyed Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I thought it was fun having him in the MCU. I was looking forward to seeing him interact with like more characters and stuff. But, you know, at the end of the day, like I said, it is what it is. You know, they're just movies. If this happens, it sucks, but whatever. You know, I hope that Sony makes a good movie. Hopefully they learn something from, you know, Marvel and stuff. But I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see what happens because it's definitely like in a weird place right now where I think they are trying to renegotiate stuff. But yeah, you know, Spider-Man might be out of the MCU. So there you go. Moving on, this next one is a short one, but, you know, it's one that I thought was kind of interesting. As the title of the article states, James Bond 25 gets official title of No Time to Die. So, I don't know how many of you are into the James Bond franchise. You know, I don't know how many of you are into Daniel Craig's James Bond. But yeah, you know, after Spectre came out, and was honestly kind of a flop because, I don't know, man, having watched Spectre, I thought that movie was kind of a mess. I didn't really enjoy it. But, you know, after that movie came out, it was kind of a flop. It was kind of, you know, iffy if Daniel Craig would come back for another movie or whatever. And, you know, eventually they said that he was coming back. He was going to do Bond 25, blah, blah, blah. And up till now, we haven't really had any information about it. So I just thought it was kind of interesting because, I don't know. I mean, even though I think the Daniel Craig movies haven't all been great, you know, like I think Casino Royale was interesting. Quantum of Solace, really boring and terrible. Skyfall, I thought was good. I thought it was actually really interesting. But then Spectre, once again, was very you know? So, I don't know. I'm just hoping that, you know, maybe it's like one good, one bad, one good, one bad, one good with this one, you know? But that aside, we finally have the name, and we have like a premise of the movie. It says, in No Time to Die, Bond has left active service and is enjoying a tranquil life in Jamaica. His peace is short-lived when his old friend Felix Leiter from the CIA turns up asking for help. The mission to rescue a kidnapped scientist turns out to be far more treacherous than expected, leading Bond onto the trail of a mysterious villain armed with dangerous new technology. So, premise sounds pretty standard, you know. I mean, it is kind of different in the sense that it's like a retired James Bond coming back. I mean, that is a little different, but everything else sounds pretty same old, you know. Rescuing a kidnapped scientist, person with technology, blah, blah, blah. All of that sounds pretty basic. But like I said, you know, I just thought I'd share the story because, I don't know, even if they're not great, I still watch every James Bond because, you know, I guess I'm just hoping that they're good, you know? And like I said, I have enjoyed like Casino Royale and I have enjoyed Skyfall. So hopefully this is another like good one or whatever. And yeah, it seems like this might be Daniel Craig's last run as James Bond. So if it is, you know, it'll be interesting to see how they end his story with his character. So I hope it's a good movie. You know, only time will tell. But yeah, if you're a James Bond fan, there you go. We got the title, we got the premise. Keep an eye out for it. Alrighty, moving on. I got another short one, but you know, I thought it was worth sharing. Basically, as the title of the article states, first teaser for Nickelodeon's Lego Jurassic World animated series, STOMPS in. So, not really much to say. Pretty self-explanatory. Basically, Nickelodeon is going to make an animated series that follows like the Lego Jurassic World aesthetic, I guess. And it's supposed to take place 2 years before the first movie, I think. So obviously it's not going to take place during the disaster and stuff, you know. It is a kids show. And not really much to say, you know. I think the animation, honestly, isn't that great. I think it looks really cheap. However, having played some of the Lego games before, the Lego games are really fun, and they do have like I'd say it's some pretty good humor. So if they're anything like the little Lego games, hopefully it'll be a good series, but I don't know. I've never really watched any of the Lego shows. I've never really checked out like Ninjago or any of that stuff, but I guess I just wish it the best, As like I said, if it's anything like the games where it's like funny and it's like, it has like charm and stuff, I think that'll be cool. But I don't know. Same as everything else I've talked about today. I guess only time will tell, so there you go. Finally, this last news story is a doozy. All right? Like, when I ran into this news story, the only thing I could think of is that part in Jurassic Park. I want to swear that it was Jeff Goldblum who says it. But when he has that line when he says, like, you were so busy thinking about if you could that you didn't stop to think if you should. And that really applies to this, because this is, like, so creepy looking. It's so weird that it's like, oh my god, who thought of this? As the title of the article states, Swedish robotics company teams up with Bandai to build Anime Girl. And if that sounds weird to you, you have no idea. I'm looking at the article right now. I have it pulled up, and in front of me is this creepy looking anime girl aesthetic head on a pedestal, and it's like moving around and like blinking and like talking and stuff. Like, it's really creepy. I guess as it says in the article, I'll read some of it. It says, Fur Hat Robotics is known for its development of robotic heads with rear projected faces, allowing for more realistic expression. These social robots are already being used to help international travelers conduct unbiased job interviews and pre-screen patients for deadly diseases. With interchangeable custom faceplates and easier to read expressions, Fur Hat's technology seems pretty prime for depicting our favorite characters. So, on its own, that doesn't sound bad. Them having some sort of like a little robot thing to like greet people, interact with them, doesn't sound that bad. But like I said, when you see this thing in action, it just looks so creepy. It's like so unsettling because it's like this orb on a pedestal and it has like a wig and then it has like the face projected on it and it's just moving around and talking, and dude, it looks freaky, man. It looks scary. Like, I'm sorry. I don't know who thought of this. Like, you need to go back to the drawing board or something. I mean, this thing is creepy, dude. I don't really know what else to say about it. Like, I want to share it because it's so weird, but it's just so creepy. And apparently Bandai Namco, I guess they want to use it like in their theme parks, which like that's freaking horrifying. Like, I already don't like going to theme parks because I'm gonna admit it right now, I actually am really like freaked out by animatronics. Like, I think animatronics are really creepy. Like, I can't stand going to like Disneyland and getting into like any sort of ride because just the thought of like the ride shutting down and being stuck with the animatronics in the dark like freaks me the hell out. Like, I hate animatronics. So seeing that they're making more realistic looking AI animatronic things, it's creepy. It's like a nightmare come true for me. So I don't know. I don't really know what the point of sharing this story was. I guess I just wanted you guys to also be afraid of the future. But with that being said, let's move on. Alrighty guys, and that weird rant aside where I talk about my fears of the future and whatnot, that brings us to the end of another news week. And looking back, I do feel like I kind of blew through the stories a little bit. I do apologize, but, like the Marvel one, it is an ongoing story at the moment, so I don't really know how worth it is getting into, besides just like the, surface details. Like the anime one, it's really creepy. Didn't want to look at it any longer. So I do apologize if I kind of rushed through the stories. But that aside, hopefully you enjoyed the news week. Hopefully there was something that, you found informative or entertaining, that sort of thing. Hopefully there's an article that you guys will check out like on your own time and, maybe read more into it, that sort of thing. But that aside, I think it's time to transfer over to the last segment of the podcast, which is the Content Creator Spotlight. And this week's content creator, it's a pretty simple channel. And I haven't been following it for too long, but I just think that the way they really deliver on their premise and their like creativity for this premise, I think this channel is awesome. All right. So the channel I'm talking about, of course, is a little channel currently sitting at 308 subscribers called M3 Top. And M3 Top, the premise of their channel is that it's a cooking channel. However, though, I think that they take this like simple premise and they really make it their own because they have so many creative and so many different recipes. You know, like just looking at like some of the videos they made recently, you know, just kind of like staring at them right now. They made vegetable rolls. They made chicken mushroom with rice soup. They made Chinese cabbage. They made tomato and pepper salad. They made wings with like Coca-Cola. Like that was really interesting. Pan-seared salmon. They showed how to make stir-fried shredded potato. They made stir-fry with like shrimp and stuff. Like, trust me, the list goes on and on. They have a bunch of really good recipes. And the recipes, like the person cooking them, they do talk in a different language. I'm not even going to guess because I'm probably going to butcher it. It is some sort of Asian language that I don't recognize. However, what's cool is that sometimes they either have the instructions in English on screen or you can just click the captions and it's in English. So you still learn how to cook even if you don't understand the language. And so like I said, it's a very simple premise, very simple channel, very straightforward, but I've really enjoyed following them because I've really fallen in love with all the recipes. So M3 Top, if you're listening to this, keep up the good work. I think that all of the recipes you show, I think they're awesome. I think that they're all really like simple, like you make it very clear so that like anyone can do it. I think that's really cool. And yeah, I definitely think you deserve more subscribers. I think that, hopefully your channel continues to grow and I look forward to seeing what more tasty looking stuff you make. So keep up the good work. And for anyone listening, as always, check out their channel, maybe subscribe, comment, like their stuff, that sort of thing. If you're listening to this, I think that they, trust me, I think they are a top-notch channel. I think that all the recipes they have are awesome, and I think you'll fall in love with them if you check them out. So as always, if you check them out, send them some love, that sort of thing. Tell them that Wannabe Reviewer sent you. There you go. Alrighty, and with that being said, that brings us to the end of another podcast. Once again, apologies. I do feel like I kind of rushed through some of the content. I didn't really mean to. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the podcast. Hopefully there was something you got out of it, whether it was the news stories, me talking about some of the Kickstarters that I've held back, me introducing you to M3 Top, that sort of thing. To wrap up, my name is the Wannabe Reviewer. As always, I'm the host of the Wannabe podcast, available on all sorts of platforms, and over on social media, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, all that sort of stuff. That aside though, I hope that you guys have a wonderful week. I will try my best to be back here for episode number 44 next week. And until then, my name is the Wannabe Reviewer, and I will catch you guys next time.